This hour, the national polling average shows Hillary Clinton with a 6.9-point lead in a two-way race and a 6.8-point lead in a four-way. The betting odds, meanwhile, continue to show her a heavy favorite by just over 5-1. The Fox News polls that just came out show a bit of good news for Donald Trump. He still trails Hillary Clinton by 6 points in a four-way race and 7 in a two-way, both numbers representing a point uptick from our poll last week. And he's back in the lead with independents, 38-31, as compared to the tie with that voting bloc a week ago. All of this, of course, has a bearing on down-ballot races, especially the Senate races, where Democrats now think they have a golden opportunity to regain control of the upper chamber of the Congress. For more on this, we turn to Josh Kraushaar, political editor at National Journal. Josh, good evening.
Good to be here.
I know you've been looking at certain states in particular, so I wanted to start you out by showing what the Real Clear Politics average is showing in the state of New Hampshire, where that's in one of the states where there's an incumbent Republican senator running. Well, that's the presidential preference. We're looking for the Senate race. There it is, Kelly Ayotte, the incumbent Republican. She's leading Maggie Hassan, the Democratic governor, who's obviously running for the Senate this time, by a couple of points. How does that race look to you?
Well, this is one of those races where the Republican senator has had a really awkward relationship with Donald Trump. And at first she said she was going to support him but not endorse him. At a debate, she really stumbled over her relationship in terms of the depth of her support for Donald Trump. And after the videos came out, she said she can't support Donald Trump anymore. She's going to write Mike Pence in as a write-in for her support. She's lost some of that Trump base. A lot of Republicans that are hardcore Trump supporters in New Hampshire have decided to kind of take out their frustrations on Kelly Ayotte. It's a very close race, and it's really about as close as any of these big battlegrounds.
Knowing the political nature of New Hampshire now, obviously she took a gamble when she decided to pull away from Trump basically altogether. In your view, did that cost her more than it gained her?
New Hampshire is a very, as you said, an independent-minded state where there are probably more voters that are agreeing with Kelly Ayotte's position vis-a-vis Donald Trump. The challenge, though, is that the people who support Donald Trump are almost taking out their frustration against these Republican down-ballot office holders. So whenever they hear a Republican that isn't going to support Donald Trump, they may just leave the ballot blank down-ballot.
Wow, that would definitely make a difference. In Pennsylvania, Pat Toomey, the incumbent Republican, is running there against Katie McGinty, who was an environmental official in the Clinton administration, if I remember correctly, the Clinton-Gore administration. And that race is really tight, and that's a tough state. It looks like Trump is trailing pretty badly there. Does it look to you as if Toomey is going to be swept out with the tide?
It's a challenging race given the environment for Pat Toomey, and the big challenge for Republicans is those vote-rich, moderate Philadelphia suburbs, where Donald Trump is just taking a beating in the statewide polling. But Pat Toomey has positioned himself as a more pragmatic Republican. He's actually gotten support from Michael Bloomberg's gun control group, which has put up advertising on his behalf in Pennsylvania. So Pat Toomey is actually running well ahead of the tide in Pennsylvania. The problem is the tide is pretty steep, and Trump is almost down double digits in the statewide polling. So it's a real challenge.
Would you say if that race ends up double digits for Clinton, that will be too much for Toomey to overcome?
Toomey probably needs the race to stay within a single-digit margin at the top of the ticket.
Got it.
It's a big issue.
Let's take a look at Missouri. Incumbent Republican Senator Roy Blunt in a tight race out there with a Democrat, Jason Kander. That's another less than 2.5 point margin, as you can see there. What do you see out there?
The Democrats are about as excited about their challenger, the Secretary of State, Jason Kander, than they are about any other candidate in a big battleground race. He's running well ahead of the Republican ticket, or rather, Kander's running ahead of the Democratic ticket. Missouri's a very Republican state.
Yeah, Trump is still in pretty good shape in Missouri, right?
He's up by a few points. The big issue in this race is Roy Blunt, and the issue that Democrats are using against Roy Blunt is his lobbying ties, the fact that he's been in Washington for decades, and he has, his son, the former governor, is now a prominent lobbyist in the state. So they're using a lot of the insider playbook that Donald Trump used against Republican candidates. This time the Democrats are using it against Roy Blunt.
And finally, in Indiana, where there's an open seat, a seat that has been held by the Republicans, so this is when they would desperately like to hold on to, and it looks like Evan Bayh, well known because his father was a Democratic senator from that state, and he himself was formerly a senator from that state, is running ahead there. I've been hearing that Republicans are still pretty optimistic about that. What do you think about it?
The momentum is definitely with Republicans in Indiana. Evan Bayh started out as a well-known office holder. His father was governor. He was well-liked as a senator and governor himself. But the fact that he, after leaving office, came to Washington, made a lot of money as a lobbyist.
Yeah, that's right. He's been lobbying during the interim after he left the Senate, right?
Bayh and Blunt sort of have the same issues. They're both lobbyists, or they both have ties to lobbyists, so they're Washington insiders.
And both insiders, yeah.
And they're both in red states, except for Bayh, it's tough in a state that probably is going to vote for Donald Trump to get enough of those Trump voters to his side.
So all in all, how well do you think Republicans across the board, the Republican incumbents, trying desperately to hold on to the Senate when there's 24 of them up. How do they seem to be doing in relation to how Trump is doing?
It's very, very close. I reported today that Republican polling showed 7 of these races, all of them held by Republicans. They're all within the margin of error. These could go either way. So that the Senate is really, truly hanging in the balance. It's operating in a different plane as the presidential race, but Republicans need to win almost all these battleground states.
And does separation from Trump on balance help or hurt?
It helps, but when you're down 10 points, when Trump is losing by 10 points or losing by double digits, it's a challenge.
Right. Josh, thanks very much.